Dr. Lisa Martinez floated in the observation deck of the Stellar Dawn, watching the blue and green planet spin slowly below them. The planet looked peaceful from space, with white clouds swirling over vast oceans and brown continents. Her team had been studying this world for 3 days now, and what they found amazed them. "Captain Sullivan, you need to see this," Lisa called into her communicator. She pulled up the data on her screen, showing the readings they had collected. The planet was full of life, and not just simple plants and animals. There were cities, roads, and ships moving across the oceans. Most surprising of all, there were rockets launching into space. Captain Jake Sullivan arrived at the observation deck within minutes. He was a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms and large, gentle eyes. Like most species in the galaxy, his people had evolved from plant-eating animals. The idea of hunting for food seemed strange and frightening to him. "What have you found?" "Dr. Martinez?" he asked, looking at the data. "They call themselves humans," Lisa explained. "They have built a civilization across their entire planet. They use radio waves to communicate, and they have already sent small ships to their moon." "Captain, I think we should make contact." Jake nodded slowly. First contact was always exciting, but also dangerous. The Galactic Council had strict rules about how to approach new species. They had to be careful not to frighten them or cause panic. "Have you learned their language yet?" Jake asked. "The ship's computer is working on it," Lisa replied. "They speak many different languages, but there seems to be one main organization that speaks for all of them. They call it the United Nations." Jake made the decision quickly. "Send a message. Tell them we come in peace and want to meet with their leaders." The next few hours were tense as they waited for a response. When it finally came, Lisa could barely contain her excitement. The humans wanted to meet them too. They agreed to have a ship meet the Stellar Dawn in space, halfway between the planet and its moon. 2 days later, Lisa watched through the viewing port as a strange, angular ship approached them. It was made of metal and painted white with blue markings. Unlike the smooth, organic curves of galactic ships, this human vessel looked rough and industrial. "They're requesting permission to dock," announced Lieutenant Zeftar from the bridge. Zeftar was from a rabbit-like species with large ears and soft gray fur. His people were known for being nervous and quick to run from danger. "Grant permission," Jake replied, "and prepare the main meeting room." Lisa hurried to the meeting room, where the ship's translation computer had been set up. She checked the equipment one more time as the human ship connected to their docking. Port. The computer had learned enough of the human languages to allow basic communication. The airlock door opened with a soft hiss, and 3 humans stepped through. Lisa stared at them in fascination. They walked upright on 2 legs, like many species, but something about them was different. Their eyes faced forward instead of to the sides. Their movements were smooth and confident. They showed no fear at all. The lead human was a tall male with short brown hair and sharp blue eyes. He wore a dark blue uniform with shiny metal symbols on his chest. Behind him walked a woman with blonde hair pulled back tightly, and another man with black hair and darker skin. "I am Captain Ryan Clark of the Earth vessel Liberty," the lead human said. The translation computer immediately converted his words into Galactic Standard. "This is Major Amy Roberts and Lieutenant Colonel Pete Johnson. We represent the United Nations Space Command." Jake stepped forward and bowed slightly, as was the custom among peaceful species. "Welcome aboard the Stellar Dawn. I am Captain Sullivan, and this is our head scientist, Dr. Martinez. We are honored to meet your species." Captain Clark smiled, showing white teeth. "The honor is ours, Captain. This is humanity's first contact with alien life. Our people are very excited to learn. We are not alone in the universe. Your species has accomplished much," Lisa said. "We are impressed by your technology and your unified government." "Thank you," Major Roberts replied. "We have worked hard to bring peace to our world. Our soldiers have helped end many conflicts and protect our people." The moment she said the word soldiers, something strange happened. Lieutenant Zefter suddenly jumped backward, his ears flattening against his head. His breathing became fast and shallow. "At the same time, Captain." Sullivan's skin changed from blue to a pale gray color, and his forearms moved protectively in front of his body. "Soldiers?" Jake whispered, his voice shaking slightly. The humans looked confused. Captain Clark glanced at his companions, then back at the aliens. "Yes, our military forces. They keep the peace and protect our borders. Is something wrong?" Zef-der was now backing toward the door, his large eyes wide with what looked like fear. Other alien crew members who had been watching from the corridor also seemed disturbed. Lisa could hear worried whispers in various alien languages. "Iwi ... Jake struggled to speak. "Did you say soldiers?" "Yes," Lieutenant Colonel Johnson said slowly. "Our armed forces, our peacekeepers, men and women who serve their country and protect innocent people." "Why? What's wrong with that word?" The translation computer was working perfectly, but something about the word soldiers was causing panic among the alien crew. Lisa had never seen anything like it. These were experienced space travelers who had met dozens of different species, but this one word seemed to trigger a deep, instinctive fear. "Perhaps we should continue this meeting later," Jake said, still looking pale. "We need to. Check our translation systems. Make sure there are no errors." Captain Clark looked concerned. "Did we say something offensive?" "We don't want to cause any problems." No, Lisa said quickly. "It's just ... unexpected. We need some time to understand. Could we schedule another meeting tomorrow?" The humans agreed, though they clearly didn't understand what had gone wrong. As they returned to their ship, Lisa could see them talking quietly among themselves, looking worried and confused. After the humans left, the alien crew gathered in the meeting room. Everyone looked shaken. Zefter was still breathing heavily, and several other crew members seemed nervous and jumpy. "What just happened?" Lisa asked. "Why did everyone react that way to the word soldiers?" Jake shook his head slowly. "I don't know. When they said that word, something deep inside me screamed danger. It was like my body knew something my mind didn't." "But they seemed peaceful," Lisa protested. "They talked about protecting people and keeping peace." "I know," Jake replied. "That's what makes this so strange. They appear to be a normal species, maybe a bit more confident than most, but normal. Yet when they mentioned their soldiers, every instinct I have told me to run." Zefter finally spoke. Up, his voice still shaky. "It's not just you, Captain. I felt it too, like something terrible was about to happen. But I don't understand why. They're just another species, right?" Lisa looked around the room at her frightened colleagues. She had studied hundreds of species during her career, but she had never seen anything like this reaction. The humans seemed friendly and peaceful, but the word soldiers had triggered something primal in every alien present. "I'm going to research this," she announced. "There has to be an explanation. Maybe our people encountered humans before, long ago. Maybe there's something in our historical records." Jake nodded. "Good idea. In the meantime, I'll contact the Galactic Council. They need to know about this. If the word soldiers causes this kind of reaction, there might be something important we're missing about these humans." As the crew dispersed, Lisa remained in the meeting room, staring at the spot where the humans had stood. They had seemed so normal, so friendly. But somewhere deep in the genetic memory of every species on the ship, that one word had awakened an ancient terror. She had to find out why. Dr. Lisa Martinez spent 3 days searching through the Galactic Historical Database. But she found nothing about humans or soldiers that explained the strange reaction. The records showed peaceful first contacts with hundreds of species, but none triggered the kind of fear she had witnessed. Frustrated, she decided to ask for help. She contacted Zefter, who had been acting nervous ever since the meeting. Despite his fear, he was also the ship's expert on ancient history. "Zefter, I need your help," Lisa said when she found him in the archives. "Have you ever heard of a species called soldiers before?" Zefter's ears twitched nervously. "Not soldiers as a species name, no. But the word itself, ... double quotes." He paused, looking uncomfortable. "There are old stories, very old. Stories that parents tell children to scare them into behaving." "What kind of stories?" "About creatures from the dark time, before the Galactic Council existed. But they're just myths, Dr. Martinez. Stories to frighten youngsters." Lisa leaned forward. "Tell me these stories, Zefter, please." Zefter looked around nervously, as if speaking the words might summon something terrible. "The stories say there were once creatures that hunted thinking beings across the stars. They called themselves by a name that meant those who fight. In the old galactic language, that word was ... soldiers." A chill ran down Lisa's spine. "These stories, how old are they?" "Ancient, maybe 50,000 years or more. But like I said, they're just stories to scare children." "I want to see the oldest records you have," Lisa said firmly. "The really ancient ones from before the council." Zefter hesitated. "Those records are restricted, Dr. Martinez. Most species prefer not to remember the dark time. It was before civilization, before peace. It was chaos." "I have authorization from Captain Sullivan," Lisa lied. "This is important for understanding the humans." Reluctantly, Zefter led her to a secured section of the archives. He used his access codes to open files that had not been viewed in centuries. The records were old and damaged, some barely readable. "Here," Zefter said, pointing to a file marked with warning symbols. "This is from the hegemony period, before the council brought peace to the galaxy." Lisa opened the file and began reading. At first, it seemed like typical historical records. Trade agreements, planetary surveys, colony reports. But then she found something that made her blood freeze. "Warning! Soldier activity detected in Sector 7. All civilian vessels advised to avoid the region. Military escort required for all supply runs." She scrolled further and found more entries. Day 47. The soldiers have taken the mining colony on. Kepler 442b. No survivors reported. Standard hunting pattern observed. Day 52. Request immediate reinforcement. The soldiers are not seeking territory. They hunt for sport. Day 67. Colony ship Hope of Tomorrow overdue. Last transmission reported. Soldier vessels in pursuit. Presume all 50,000 colonists lost. Lisa's hands shook as she read entry after entry. The records painted a picture of terror that had lasted for thousands of years. These soldiers were not conquerors seeking territory or resources. They were hunters who treated intelligent species as prey. "Zefter," she whispered, "are you reading this?" Zefter nodded, his face pale with fear. "I thought they were just stories. I never imagined ... They continued reading through the night. The records described a species of bipedal hunters who moved through space in packs. They were intelligent, adaptable, and relentless. Once they marked a species for hunting, they never gave up. The most chilling detail was how ordinary they seemed at first contact. The records described them as using simple names: John, Mary, Steve, Kate. They appeared friendly and peaceful until the hunting began. "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to a tactical report. They hunted in organized groups with clear leadership structures. They had ranks and titles. and they always called themselves soldiers. The report described how the soldiers would study their prey for weeks before attacking. They learned the target species' weaknesses, their fears, their social structures. Then they would begin the hunt, which could last for months or even years. They were persistent hunters, Zephyr read from another file. They would chase their prey across multiple star systems, never allowing them to rest or recover. The hunt only ended when the prey was caught or died from exhaustion. Lisa found a personal account from a survivor of a soldier attack. The being described watching his entire family hunted through an asteroid field for 3 days before they were finally caught. The soldiers had shown no emotion during the hunt, no anger, no hatred. To them, it was simply what they did. This explains the reaction, Lisa said suddenly. Every species in the galaxy must carry genetic memories of these creatures. The word soldiers is burned into our collective unconscious as a symbol of ultimate predation. But these humans, Zephyr said confused, they don't seem like hunters. They talked about protecting people. Lisa continued reading and found her answer in a military report from the final years of the soldier terror. Physical description: bipedal species, forward-facing eyes, omnivorous dentition. Height approximately 1.8 meters. Skin tone varies from pale to dark brown. Hair color varies widely. The description matched the humans perfectly. "Oh no," Lisa whispered. "Zephyr, I think the humans are related to these ancient soldiers. Maybe they're descended from them." Meanwhile, on the human ship Liberty, Captain Ryan Clark was having his own problems. The friendly meeting had turned strange so quickly that his crew was confused and worried. "Sir," Major Amy Roberts said as she entered the captain's quarters, "I've been thinking about what happened during the meeting. The way they reacted when we mentioned our military ... "I noticed it too," Ryan replied. "The moment we said soldiers, they all looked terrified. But why would the concept of military forces frighten them so much?" Lieutenant Colonel Pete Johnson joined them, carrying a tablet with information about the alien ship. "I've been studying their vessel design," he said. "Everything about it suggests a peaceful species. No weapons, no armor plating, no defensive systems at all. Maybe they're pacifists," Amy suggested. "Some species never developed military forces. The idea of organized combat might be foreign to them." "But their reaction was more than confusion," Ryan said. "It was fear. Deep, instinctive. Fear, like the word itself, was dangerous." Pete pulled up more data on his tablet. "I've been monitoring their communications. They're definitely researching something about us. Their computer systems have been accessing historical databases non-stop since our meeting." "Should we be worried?" Amy asked. Ryan considered this. "I don't think they mean us harm. But clearly, something about our military structure concerns them. Maybe we should prepare a more detailed explanation of what our soldiers actually do. Show them that we're peacekeepers, not aggressors." Back on the Stellar Dawn, Lisa was making a discovery that would change everything. Deep in the archives, she found a file marked Operation Final Hunt, a classified record from the end of the Soldier Wars. "Zephyr, look at this," she said, opening the file. "This is a complete record of how the soldiers were finally defeated." The file contained detailed battle plans, casualty reports, and strategic analyses. It told the story of a desperate alliance between 12 species who had decided they could no longer live in fear. "They called it the Final Hunt," Lisa read aloud. "The alliance deliberately attracted the soldiers' attention, then led them on a chase across the galaxy. It took 3 years, but they finally managed to trap the soldiers near a black hole. Both fleets were destroyed," Zephyr said, reading over her shoulder. "The soldiers and most of the Alliance ships were pulled into the black hole. It was a suicide mission." Lisa scrolled to the bottom of the file and found something unexpected, a genetic analysis of captured soldier DNA. The report had been compiled by scientists who hoped understand what made these creatures such effective hunters. According to this, the soldiers had remarkable genetic adaptability, she read. They could survive in almost any environment and adapt to new challenges within a single generation. But more importantly, they had a strong pack bonding instinct and an unbreakable loyalty to their group. That doesn't sound so terrible, Zefter said. No, it doesn't, Lisa agreed. In fact, it sounds like the qualities that make humans good soldiers. Loyalty, adaptability, willingness to sacrifice for the group. She thought about the humans they had met. Captain Clark and his crew had shown all of these traits. They were clearly dedicated to protecting their people and their planet. Zefter, what if the humans aren't the same as the ancient soldiers? What if they're what the soldiers could have become if they had chosen protection instead of predation? Zefter's ears perked up slightly. You think they evolved differently? I think that's exactly what happened, Lisa said excitedly. The genetic markers are there, but the behavior is completely different. These humans use their soldier instincts to protect, not to hunt. She gathered all the data she had collected and prepared to brief Captain Sullivan. This discovery would change how the galaxy viewed both humans and their own history. The ancient terror of the word soldiers might finally be laid to rest. But first, they needed to understand exactly what had happened to transform the galaxy's greatest predators into its potential protectors. Dr. Lisa Martinez stood before Captain Sullivan and the senior crew, holding a datapad that contained the most shocking discovery in galactic history. The meeting room was quiet, except for the hum of the ship's systems. Everyone waited for her to speak. Captain, I need to share something that will be difficult to believe, Lisa began. The humans we met are genetically related to the ancient soldiers that terrorized the galaxy 50,000 years ago. The room erupted in shocked whispers. Lieutenant Zefter, who had helped with the research, nodded grimly to confirm her words. That's impossible, said Commander Alex Stone, the ship's security chief. The soldiers were all destroyed in the final hunt. The records are clear about that. Not all of them, Lisa replied. She activated the main screen and displayed the genetic analysis. I compared the DNA samples we collected from the human ship with genetic fragments recovered from ancient battlefields. The match is undeniable. The screen showed two sets of genetic codes side by side. Even to those who were not scientists, the similarities were obvious. Long sequences of DNA were identical between the ancient soldiers and modern humans. Look, at these markers, Lisa pointed to specific sections of the code. Improved muscle density, enhanced reflexes, advanced problem-solving capabilities, and most importantly, an extremely strong pack bonding instinct. The humans have all the same genetic advantages that made the soldiers such effective hunters. Captain. Sullivan leaned forward in his chair. But Dr. Martinez, the humans we met seemed peaceful. They talked about protecting people, not hunting them. That's exactly the point, Lisa said excitedly. They have the same genetic foundation, but they've evolved differently. Instead of using their abilities to hunt other species, they use them to protect their own people. She brought up historical records on the screen. The ancient soldiers called themselves by simple names: John, Mary, Steve, Kate. The humans we met were Captain Clark, Major Roberts, and Lieutenant Colonel Johnson. The naming patterns are identical. Zefter stood up to address the group. Dr. Martinez and I spent hours going through the records. The behavioral patterns match perfectly, but with one crucial difference. The ancient soldiers formed hunting packs to prey on other species. Modern humans form military units to defend against threats. Show them the organizational structure, Lisa said. Zephyr pulled up a comparison chart. Ancient soldiers organized themselves into rigid hierarchies with clear chain of command. They had ranks, specializations, and coordinated tactics. Human militaries are organized exactly the same way. The similarities were frightening. Both species used identical leadership structures, similar training methods, and even comparable uniforms and symbols of rank. But there's more, Lisa continued. I found records of what the soldiers called their core beliefs. They had codes of honor that emphasized loyalty, sacrifice for the group, and never abandoning a fallen comrade. That sounds like every military code in the galaxy, Commander Stone observed. Exactly, Lisa said. The humans haven't lost the soldier instincts. They've redirected them. Instead of hunting other species, they've turned their pack loyalty inward to protect their own kind. On the human ship Liberty, Captain Ryan Clark was having a similar revelation. His communications officer, Lieutenant Dan Phillips, had been monitoring alien transmissions and had picked up fragments of their research. Captain, you need to hear this, Dan said, bringing his findings to the bridge. The aliens have been researching our military structure, and what they found has them very concerned. What kind of concerns? Ryan asked. According to their transmissions, they found historical records about ancient creatures called soldiers. These beings apparently hunted intelligent species across the galaxy tens of thousands of years ago. Major Amy Roberts, who was reviewing tactical reports nearby, looked up with interest. Hunters? What kind of hunters? The kind that treated other species as prey, Dan replied grimly. And according to their data, we match the genetic profile of these ancient soldiers almost perfectly. The bridge fell silent. Ryan felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying they think we're related to these hunters? Not just related, Captain. According to their analysis, we are them. Or at least, we're what they became. Ryan called for an emergency meeting of his senior staff. Within an hour, all department heads were gathered in the briefing room. Dan presented what he had learned from monitoring the alien communications. So they're afraid of us because they think we're ancient. Predators? Asked Colonel Pete Johnson. That would explain their reaction to the word soldiers, Amy said thoughtfully. If these creatures terrorize the galaxy for thousands of years, the fear would be passed down genetically. But we're not hunters, protested Lieutenant Commander Nicole Baker from Engineering. We're explorers and peacekeepers. Are we? Asked Sergeant Tony Garcia from the Marines. I mean, think about how we train. We learn to hunt enemies, track them down, and eliminate threats. Our whole military philosophy is based on finding and neutralizing dangers. The room grew uncomfortable as they considered this. Ryan realized that from an outside perspective, human military training could indeed look like preparation for hunting. There's something else, Don added. According to the records I intercepted, these ancient soldiers had very specific behavioral patterns. They were pack hunters who never abandoned their own kind. They had strict codes of honor and would fight to the death rather than surrender. That sounds like the Marine Corps' motto, Tony said quietly. Semper Fidelis. Always faithful. Never leave a man behind. And the Army's code? Pete added. This will defend. Honor, courage, commitment. Amy looked around the table. We do organize ourselves exactly like pack hunters. Squads, platoons, companies. Clear hierarchies, specialized roles, coordinated tactics. But we use those tactics to defend people, Nicole protested. We protect the innocent and fight against oppression. Do we? Ryan asked quietly. Or do we just tell ourselves that's what we're doing? When we were fighting the wars in the Middle East, were we really protecting people? Or were we hunting enemies in their own territory? The question hung in the air. Everyone was uncomfortable with the implications. Back on the Stellar Dawn, Lisa was making another disturbing discovery. She had been analyzing the psychological profiles of the human crew and comparing them to ancient soldier behavior patterns. "Captain Sullivan, I need to show you something," she said, calling him to her laboratory. "I've been studying the human's body language and communication patterns during our meeting." She played back video of the first contact meeting, but this time with behavioral analysis overlays. "Watch Captain Clark's movements," she said. "Notice how he positions himself relative to his subordinates. He maintains visual contact with both of them at all times, and his body position allows him to react quickly to any threat." The analysis highlighted how the human captain had unconsciously positioned himself to protect his crew while maintaining tactical awareness of the room. "Now watch how they respond to questions," Lisa continued. "They don't just give information. They assess whether the information could be used against them or their people." The video showed subtle pauses and careful word choices that suggested the humans were constantly evaluating the tactical implications of everything they said. "They're not just being diplomatic," Lisa realized. "They're conducting reconnaissance. They're studying us the same way the ancient soldiers studied their prey." Captain Sullivan watched the analysis with growing unease. "Dr. Martinez, are you saying the humans see us as potential enemies?" "I don't think they're conscious of it," Lisa replied. "But their instincts are telling them to gather intelligence and assess threats. It's exactly what the ancient soldiers did before beginning a hunt." She pulled up more data from her analysis. "Look at their ship design. They told us it was a peaceful exploration vessel, but I've analyzed its configuration. Those are weapon mounts disguised as sensor arrays. The hull plating is reinforced beyond what's needed for space travel, and the engine configuration suggests it's designed for high-speed pursuit. They've built a warship and disguised it as a science vessel," Sullivan said quietly. "Just like the ancient soldiers used to do," Lisa confirmed. "They would approach new species with ships that looked harmless, gather intelligence, and then return with hunting fleets." The implications were terrifying. If the humans were truly the descendants of the ancient soldiers, then first contact might not be the peaceful meeting they had hoped for. It might be the beginning of a new age of terror for the galaxy. But Lisa had one more piece of evidence to consider. She pulled up the final part of her analysis. "Captain, there's something else." The ancient soldiers had one weakness that ultimately led to their destruction. They couldn't resist a challenge. If you offered them the ultimate hunt, they would abandon everything else to pursue it. And the humans have the same weakness, but they've turned it into a strength. Instead of hunting the ultimate prey, they seek the ultimate mission. They want to explore the unknown, protect the innocent, and face impossible odds for the right cause. Lisa looked at the captain with hope in her eyes. "I think that's the difference. The ancient soldiers hunted because they enjoyed the chase. Modern humans fight because they believe in something." Dr. Lisa Martinez worked through the night, diving deeper into the restricted archives to understand how the ancient soldiers had finally been defeated. What she discovered was both inspiring and terrifying. A story of sacrifice that had saved the galaxy but cost millions of lives. The operation had been called the Final Hunt, and the records were detailed enough to reconstruct exactly what had happened 50,000 years ago. Lisa read through tactical reports, personal journals, and strategic analyses, trying to understand how 12 species had managed to defeat the galaxy's most efficient predators. "Zephyr," she called to her research partner. "Look at this battle plan. The coalition wasn't trying to fight the soldiers directly. They were trying to lead them somewhere." Zephyr examined the star charts and fleet movements. "It looks like they were running away, but in a very specific pattern. Every retreat led the soldiers deeper into unexplored space." "Exactly," Lisa said excitedly. "The coalition studied soldier behavior and realized their one weakness. They couldn't resist the ultimate challenge. So the Alliance gave them exactly what they wanted. The records painted a clear picture of the strategy. The Coalition had gathered their finest ships and bravest warriors, then sent a message across the galaxy. "We are the greatest prey you will ever hunt. Come and take us if you can." "It was brilliant," Lisa murmured as she read. The soldiers abandoned their territorial holdings and supply lines to pursue this ultimate hunt. They couldn't help themselves. The chase had lasted 3 years and covered half the galaxy. The Coalition fleet would engage the soldiers just long enough to make the hunt interesting, then retreat to the next system. Always deeper into space, always further from soldier-controlled territory. Lisa found a personal journal from Commander Valthara, one of the Coalition leaders. Day 847 of the hunt. The soldiers are relentless but predictable. They have now committed their entire fleet to pursuing us. Our spies report that their home worlds are defenseless, but we cannot break off to attack them. To do so would end the hunt, and the soldiers would return to their territories. We must continue the chase until we reach the target location. The target location, Lisa said aloud. Zephyr, where were they leading them? Together, they traced the route on the star charts. The final battle had taken place near Sagittarius A East, a massive black hole on the edge of the galactic core. They led them into a gravity trap, Zephyr realized. Once the fleets got too close to the block hole, neither side could escape. Lisa found the final report from the battle. It was written by the only Coalition ship that had managed to escape the black hole's pull. The soldiers fought magnificently, even as their ships were being torn apart by gravitational forces. They showed no fear, only determination to complete their hunt. In the end, they were pulling themselves toward our ships, even as the black hole consumed them. They died as they lived, as perfect predators. But Lisa discovered something else in the records that made her heart race. The final report included a genetic analysis of soldier prisoners captured during the early stages of the hunt. "Look at this, Zephyr," she said, pointing to a section of the report. The Coalition scientists studied soldier DNA and found something unexpected. The soldiers weren't just hunters. They were trying to save their species. The genetic analysis revealed that the soldiers came from a dying world. Their sun was growing unstable, and their planet was becoming uninhabitable. The aggressive expansion across the galaxy wasn't driven by bloodlust. It was a desperate search for new worlds where their people could survive. They were refugees, Lisa whispered. Refugees who turned to hunting because it was the only way they knew how to secure resources for their people. The report went deeper into soldier psychology. Their pack loyalty and willingness to sacrifice everything for the group wasn't just predatory behavior. It was the desperate dedication of a species facing extinction. "Read this part," Zephyr said, pointing to a psychological profile. The soldiers genuinely believed they were saving their people. Every hunt, every conquest, was justified as necessary for species survival. Lisa felt a chill as she realized the implications. They weren't evil monsters, Zephyr. They were exactly what humans might become if Earth was dying, and they had to find new worlds for their people. Meanwhile, on the human ship Liberty, Captain Ryan Clark was dealing with his own disturbing revelations. Lieutenant Dan Phillips had intercepted more alien communications, and what he learned made the crew's situation much more complicated. "Captain, the aliens have been in contact with something called the Galactic Council," Dan reported. "They're requesting guidance on how to handle a potential soldier contact." "Soldier contact?" Ryan asked. "You mean us?" "Yes, sir. According to their transmissions, the Council has protocols for dealing with species that match ancient soldier genetic markers. The protocols are not encouraging." Dan displayed the intercepted messages on the main screen. The communications showed that the Galactic Council was treating the human contact as a potential threat requiring immediate containment. They're debating whether to quarantine our entire solar system, Dan said grimly. Some council members want to establish a monitoring station to watch us. Others are suggesting more direct action. Major Amy Roberts looked up from her tactical station. What kind of direct action? The kind that ensures we never leave our home system, Don replied. Ryan felt anger building inside him, but he forced himself to stay calm. This was exactly the kind of situation that required careful thinking, not emotional reactions. What else have you learned from their communications? He asked. They're studying our military structure and comparing it to historical records of ancient soldiers. According to their analysis, we match the behavioral patterns almost perfectly. But we're not the same as these ancient creatures, protested Colonel Pete Johnson. We're explorers and peacekeepers. Are we really so different? Asked Sergeant Tony Garcia quietly. I've been thinking about what we do. We train for combat, we study tactics, we prepare for war. How is that different from being predators? The question troubled everyone. Ryan realized that from an alien perspective, human military training probably did look like preparation for hunting. There's more, Dan continued. I've been analyzing the historical records they've been accessing. These ancient soldiers were apparently refugees from a dying world. They hunted other species to secure resources and territory for their own people. Just like we might do if Earth was threatened, Amy said softly. The crew fell silent as they considered this. If Earth faced destruction, would humans really be any different from the ancient soldiers? Would they respect alien rights and borders? Or would they do whatever was necessary to save their species? Back on the Stellar Dawn, Lisa was making the most important discovery of her career. Deep in the archives, she found a file that had been classified beyond normal restrictions. It contained the complete genetic sequence of a soldier survivor who had been captured during the final battle. Zephyr, this changes everything, Lisa said, her voice shaking with excitement. Look at these genetic markers. This soldier had children before the final battle. The genetic line didn't end with the destruction of their fleet. The records showed that a small group of soldiers had been left behind to guard their home system, while the main fleet pursued the coalition. When their son finally died, these survivors had fled in primitive ships to a remote system on the galaxy's edge. According to this, they settled on a blue planet in a system called Sol, Lisa read. The planet had abundant water and a stable climate, but the soldiers were dying out. Their genetic diversity was too limited for long-term survival. Zephyr leaned over her shoulder to read the file. What happened to them? They did something remarkable, Lisa continued. Instead of trying to preserve their pure genetic line, they began interbreeding with the planet's primitive inhabitants. Over thousands of generations, they became part of the local species. The file contained projections of how soldier genetics would evolve over time when mixed with primitive human DNA. The predictions matched modern human genetics almost perfectly. They didn't conquer the primitive humans, Lisa realized. They joined them. They gave up their identity as soldiers to become something new. But the most shocking discovery was yet to come. The file included psychological profiles showing how soldier behavior would change when integrated with a naturally cooperative species. Look at this prediction, Lisa said, pointing to a section of the analysis. The researchers believed that mixing soldier genetics with a social species would redirect their pack loyalty. Instead of hunting other species, they would protect their adopted people. That's exactly what modern humans do, Zephyr said in amazement. The file went even deeper, describing how soldier tactical abilities would evolve over time. Their natural hunting instincts would become protective instincts. Their pack coordination would become military organization. Their persistence in pursuit would become determination to defend the innocent. The ancient soldiers didn't just die out, Lisa said with growing excitement. They evolved. They became humanity's protectors instead of the galaxy's predators. She found one final piece of evidence that confirmed her theory. The file contained a message left by the last Pooh. Dr. Lisa Martinez stood before the largest gathering of alien species in galactic history. Representatives from 47 different worlds had come to witness the presentation of her research about humanity. The meeting hall aboard the massive Galactic Council station buzzed with nervous energy. Captain Sullivan sat beside her, along with Zefter and the other crew members who had helped with the research. At the back of the hall, connected by video link, were the human representatives led by Captain Ryan Clark. Honored delegates, Lisa began. 3 weeks ago, we made first contact with a species that triggered an ancient fear in every being. Present. Today, I will explain why that fear exists and why it may no longer be necessary. She activated the holographic display, showing the genetic comparison between ancient soldiers and modern humans. Gasps and worried whispers filled the hall as the similarities became clear. The humans are indeed descended from the creatures we knew as soldiers, Lisa continued. But they are not the same species that terrorized our ancestors 50,000 years ago. She displayed the historical records showing how the last soldiers had settled on Earth and chosen to interbreed with the primitive inhabitants rather than conquer them. The final soldiers made a choice, Lisa explained. They chose cooperation over conquest, integration over domination. Over thousands of generations, this choice transformed their nature. Council leader Vexnara, an ancient being from one of the galaxy's oldest civilizations, raised a tentacle to speak. Dr. Martinez, you ask us to believe that genetic predators can simply choose to become protectors. This seems ... unlikely. With respect, Council leader, they already have, Lisa replied. She brought up video recordings from human history, showing their military forces protecting civilians, rescuing disaster victims, and maintaining peace. Watch how they behave, she said as the videos played. Their tactical abilities, their pack coordination, their persistence, these are all soldier traits. But notice how they use them. They organize themselves to protect the weak, not to hunt the strong. The videos showed human soldiers evacuating civilians from war zones, sharing their rations with hungry children, and risking their lives to save strangers. The alien delegates watched in fascination as behaviors they associated with predation were used for protection instead. Captain Clark spoke from the video link. Delegates, we understand your concerns about our heritage. We've learned about our ancestors' actions, and we're horrified by what they did. But we ask you to judge us by our own actions, not by our genetic legacy. Easy words to speak, challenged Council Member Ziphalon, whose species had suffered greatly during the soldier wars. But how can we trust creatures designed for hunting? Because they've already proven themselves, Lisa interjected. She displayed records of human exploration and first contact protocols. Look at how they approached us. They could have arrived with warships and demands. Instead, they came with scientists and offers of friendship. She showed the design specifications of the human ship Liberty. Yes, their ship has defensive capabilities, but it's primarily designed for exploration and rescue operations. They built a vessel meant to help others, not to conquer them. Zefter stood to address the council. Honored delegates, I was the first to feel the ancient fear when the humans spoke of their soldiers. But I've studied their behavior, and I've seen something remarkable. They feel the same protective instinct toward other species that they feel toward their own people. Explain, requested Council Leader Vexnara. 3 days ago, we received a distress signal from a damaged freighter, Zefter continued. The humans immediately volunteered to help with the rescue operation. They risked their own lives to save beings they had never met before. Lisa activated another display showing the joint rescue mission. The footage showed human soldiers working alongside alien crew members to evacuate survivors from the crippled ship. The humans had adapted their tactics to work with species they had never encountered before, showing the same tactical brilliance their ancestors had used for hunting, but now employed for saving lives. Watch Sergeant Ben Thompson and Corporal Emma Clark. Lisa pointed to two humans in the footage. See how they position themselves to protect both human and alien crew members. Their instincts tell them to guard the pack, but they've expanded their definition of pack to include everyone they're trying to help. The council delegates watched as the human soldiers coordinated evacuation efforts with alien rescue teams. The humans naturally took point positions in dangerous areas, using their enhanced reflexes and tactical awareness to scout ahead and identify threats. "They're using soldier abilities to protect us," whispered Council Member Nalthik in amazement. "That's exactly right," Lisa confirmed. "Their genetic heritage gives them superior tactical abilities, but their evolution has directed those abilities toward protection rather than predation." Captain Clark addressed the council again. "We know our ancestors caused great suffering in the galaxy. We can't change that history, but we can choose to use our abilities differently. We want to be the galaxy's guardians, not its hunters. But how can we be certain you won't revert to your ancestral behavior?" asked Council Leader Vexnara. Lisa smiled and activated her final piece of evidence. "Because they've already been tested, and they chose protection over predation." She displayed records of human military conflicts throughout their history. Humans have fought wars for thousands of years, but look at how they fight. They have rules of engagement that protect civilians. They provide medical care to enemy wounded. They rebuild the societies they defeat instead of enslaving them. The record showed human soldiers following strict codes of honor, even when it put them at a disadvantage. They shared food with hungry enemies, protected prisoners of war, and often sacrificed their own lives to minimize civilian casualties. Are not the behaviors of genetic predators, Lisa concluded. These are the behaviors of evolved protectors who happen to possess predatory abilities. Council member Zithalon, whose people had suffered under the ancient soldiers, studied the data carefully. Their behavior patterns are remarkably different from their ancestors. The ancient soldiers showed no mercy and followed no codes beyond the hunt. The key difference, Lisa explained, is that humans fight for principles, not for conquest. They're willing to die for abstract concepts like freedom, justice, and the protection of innocence. The ancient soldiers only fought for survival and dominance. Commander Alex Stone, representing human military leadership via video link, addressed the Council. "We understand that trust must be earned. We propose a trial period where human military units work alongside galactic peacekeeping forces. Let us prove through our actions that we're here to protect, not to hunt." The proposal created intense debate among the Council delegates. Some species wanted immediate quarantine of the human system. Others argued for cautious engagement. Few progressive delegates even suggested that humanity's unique heritage might make them ideal peacekeepers for the galaxy. After hours of discussion, Council Leader Vexnara called for quiet. The evidence suggests that humans have indeed evolved beyond their ancestral nature. However, given the trauma this legacy has caused throughout the galaxy, we propose a gradual integration process. The Council agreed to a structured first contact protocol. Humans would be allowed limited contact with volunteer species, with all interactions monitored by Council observers. Human military units would be invited to participate in joint training exercises to demonstrate their protective rather than predatory nature. "We will start small," Vexnara announced. "Humanitarian missions, disaster relief operations, and peacekeeping support. If humans prove themselves to be the protectors they claim to be, we will gradually expand their role in galactic civilization." Lisa felt tears of relief in her eyes as the Council voted to accept humanity as a probationary member of galactic civilization. The vote wasn't unanimous, but it was enough to begin the long process of integration. In the weeks that followed, human-alien cooperation began slowly. The first joint mission was a rescue operation on a mining world that had suffered a catastrophic accident. Human soldiers worked alongside alien rescue teams to save trapped miners. The aliens watched in amazement as the humans instinctively took the most dangerous positions, using their enhanced reflexes and tactical abilities to navigate unstable areas and reach survivors that others couldn't reach. When Sergeant Ben Thompson was injured while saving an alien miner, his team refused to leave him behind, carrying him to safety, even though it slowed down the entire operation. "They really don't abandon their own," observed Zefter, who was documenting the mission. "Or anyone else they're trying to protect," added Dr. Martinez. "Look how they've expanded their pack loyalty to include the miners they're rescuing." Months later, the transformation was remarkable. The word soldiers slowly began to lose its terror throughout the galaxy. When alien children heard that soldiers were coming, they stopped hiding and started waiting for rescue. Human military units became some of the most requested peacekeeping forces in the galaxy. Their combination of tactical brilliance, unbreakable loyalty, and protective instincts made them ideal for missions that required both skill and compassion. Captain Raya,